In September 2025 over Poland, a Swedish Gripen fighter jet locked onto a drone and destroyed it with an Iris-T missile. This was not a test but a real proof of ability. The dangerous part of this event was not the missile itself. It was the fact that the fighter jet actually saw a target it used to ignore. That single moment showed something important. It proved that drones survived not because they were invisible but because air defense systems were blind on purpose. Sweden did not solve the drone problem by building a new weapon. They solved it by removing the digital filters that stopped fighters from seeing the threat. Once that changed, everything else caught up. Sensors and missiles and budgets and plans moved at a speed that should worry anyone who thinks drones are an easy win. Modern fighters failed to stop drones in the past not because they were old but because they were never supposed to look for them. This sounds like a mistake, but it was actually a design choice. For a long time, radar engineers had a hard problem to solve. A battlefield is full of noise like birds and weather and trucks on the ground. If a radar showed everything, the pilot would see too many false targets and never find the real enemy. So designers made a choice to teach radars what to ignore. Slow objects and things flying low near the ground were filtered out. The idea was that anything dangerous would be fast and high like a jet or a missile. Air combat rules were written for big targets, not small drones. If something flew slowly at 100 miles per hour near the ground, it was treated as background noise. This was not because the radar was weak. The data was there, but it was deleted before the pilot could see it. Fighters were trained to look away. That decision allowed drones to take over. When drones started appearing, they did not beat technology, they beat the rules. Air defenses looked for speed and height, and drones had neither. They survived because the system decided they were not important. This is why early drone attacks felt so strange. Fighters were in the sky and radars were on, but the targets still got through. People blamed the pilots or the equipment, but the truth was simpler. The best aircraft were built to ignore the exact threat that was winning the war. Drone survival was not about being stealthy, it was about exploiting old rules. Once you understand that drone power came from blindness rather than skill, a scary realization follows. If fighters were blind on purpose, then the moment they learn to see, the drone advantage falls apart. Sweden did not give the Gripen new eyes, it just told the sensors to stop blinking. This explains why the change happened so fast and why it worried pilots who trusted their screens. The data was always there, but it had been cleaned away. Radars usually play it safe. They only show things that look like standard threats. Sweden changed that logic. They updated the software to keep slow and low tracks instead of deleting them. This sounds small, but it is huge. Letting a target stay on the screen for a few extra seconds allows the system to decide if it is a threat. Detecting a fast jet is easy because it moves clearly. Drones are hard because they wobble and fly low near trees and buildings. To a radar, they look like noise. Making a fighter see that noise without confusing the pilot is a judgment problem. Sweden let the system hesitate before deleting a track so it could double-check with other sensors. The fighter stopped asking if the target was worth attention and started asking what would happen if it missed something. That change turned theory into reality. In September 2025, during exercises, a Gripen engaged a drone in open airspace. The big deal was that the drone was found and tracked like a normal enemy. There were no special tricks or help from the ground. The aircraft treated the drone like a normal combat problem because the rules had changed. This proved that a fighter designed to ignore drones could learn to see them quickly. Once detection is solved, the balance of power shifts. Drones do not need to be faster than fighters, they just need to survive long enough to cause trouble. Seeing them is only half the battle. This brings us to the next problem Sweden had to face. Seeing a drone is useless if you cannot shoot it down. Most air missiles are built to hit fast targets. Drones do not play by those rules. Standard missiles expect a target to move in a straight line or a smooth curve. Drones linger and drift and move strangely. This confuses missiles that are used to chasing jets. This is where the Iris-T missile changes things. It was designed for chaotic close fights where the pilot decides what to hit. The pilot can choose a target just by looking at it. The missile can launch even without a perfect lock and figure it out in the air. It is agile enough to correct itself when a drone acts erratically. This combination matters more than how far the missile can fly. The fight looks tight and uncomfortable. The missile follows the drone as it changes speed and altitude until the drone runs out of moves. This is why the 2025 intercept mattered. The drone was not blown up from far away, it was hunted down. The pilot saw the target and committed, and the missile did the rest. But this control has a limit. Winning one fight does not mean winning the war. A missile that works is still a missile that must be counted. Drone warfare is about numbers. If you shoot down one drone but 20 more arrive, you still lose. This is the hard truth. A fighter can only destroy as many drones as it has missiles. This sounds obvious, but for years people ignored it. A modern fighter has many jobs and cannot carry only anti-drone weapons. In real life, a jet might shoot 2 drones and then have to leave. The math does not work in favor of the fighter. Fighters cannot stay in the air forever. They need fuel and rest. Drone swarms exploit this by attacking when planes are swapping out. Air superiority was never meant to handle hundreds of cheap targets. Fighters are built to stop other planes that are afraid of being shot down. Drones are not afraid to die. If an attacker trades one cheap drone for one expensive missile, the defender loses money and resources. The problem is not that fighters are bad, it is that they are too valuable to use this way. Every shot costs money and time. Drone operators just spend cheap machines. This undermines the old idea of air power. So while Sweden proved a fighter could kill a drone, it also proved fighters cannot do it alone. Once that reality sets in, the solution changes. If shooting them down one by one does not work, you have to change the battlefield. Sweden stopped pretending the solution was just about bullets and missiles. The Gripen uses electronic warfare to change the airspace. Old fighters used electronic warfare to hide. The Gripen uses it to attack the space before a shot is fired. Drones follow signals and paths. Electronic warfare can attack those signals continuously. The first advantage is silence. The jet can listen for drone signals without revealing itself. A drone that thinks it is safe behaves carelessly. By the time it realizes it is being watched, it is too late. The second advantage is understanding. The system matches weak radar signals with electronic noise to confirm a target. It identifies the drone by how it acts. This strips away the drone cover. A drone becomes trackable before it is even a clear target. The third advantage is sharing. The Gripen does not keep secrets. It shares what it finds with other planes and ground stations. The airspace becomes a managed network. Drones are no longer hunted one by one, they are trapped in a system that adjusts to them. Options disappear for the drone before a missile is even fired. This matters more than a single kill. Electronic warfare ends the drone advantage. Once sensing and response are shared, the battlefield expands. A fighter can leave, but a power plant or a base cannot. Drones attack these fixed targets. This is why Sweden treats ground defenses as essential. The ground system exists because fighters cannot catch everything. Fighters thin out the wave of drones, but they do not stop at all. When many drones attack, some will get through. Ground systems exist to catch those leaks without costing too much money. Their value is in their position. They sit closer to the targets that drones actually want to hit. They provide a defense that never has to land to refuel. Layering is the key. Fighters engage early to break up the attack. Electronic warfare confuses the drones. Ground systems finish off what is left. Saturation attacks only work when every defense fails at once. Sweden forces drones to survive multiple layers of danger. A drone that misses a fighter is still a threat, but a drone that hits a fuel depot does not need to be precise. Ground defenses are there to deny the drone its goal, even if it survives the sky. Sweden assumes some drones will get through and build systems to handle that. Defenses are not a wall, they are a sponge. This shift from perfect defense to managing the threat explains why Sweden moves so fast. Once you accept that drones will arrive in large numbers, you stop trying to stop them all and start trying to slow them down. This realization changed the timeline. Budgets and schedules stopped acting like peacetime plans and started acting like deadlines. Military plans usually only change when leaders realize they waited too long. Sweden originally planned to have full counter-drone systems by the 2030s. That made sense when the world was slow. That world is gone. Drones are crossing borders now. So Sweden erased 8 years from the plan. Moving the goal from 2036 to 2028 was an admission that the threat is here. Speed like that comes from fear, not optimism. This was not normal modernization. Software was checked while pilots were training. Tactics were improved during real missions. Systems went from testing to use without years of waiting. Sweden was not trying to make a perfect future weapon. It was trying to make something usable before it was too late. Joining NATO made this even more urgent. Being in an alliance means you have to be ready. Sweden stopped just defending itself and started helping defend the group. That changed the cost of being late. If you are late, you leave a hole in the defense that others depend on. Readiness became real. The Gripen changed to fit into a shared airspace where weaknesses are found quickly. This is how urgency spreads. One country moves fast to avoid being the weak link and others follow. Once the rules change under pressure, they do not go back. Drone warfare grew because the rules were old. Cheap drones won because defenses were built to ignore them. They used filters and assumptions designed for different enemies. Their success was not because they were better, it was because the defense was looking the wrong way. Sweden showed where that advantage ends. Once fighters see drones as real targets and electronic warfare removes the confusion and ground systems catch the leaks and timelines speed up to match reality, drones lose their magic. They stop being inevitable. This does not mean every drone will be shot down. It means drones stop controlling the strategy. Mass attacks only work when defenders are slow or confused. When detection is fast and response is layered, cheap drones stop being a decisive weapon. They become just another problem to manage. The key change is in the mind. Commanders stop asking if they can afford to stop the drones and start asking how much the drones really matter. When the answer is less every time, drone warfare loses its power. It does not happen overnight, but it happens for good. This is not a total victory, it is a limit. Drones will still fly and some will hit. But the time when cheap drones could control the war and drain resources is ending. Not because drones went away, but because the systems around them learned how to fight back. Drone warfare ends when drones stop being the ones who decide the outcome.